Senbei. At the most humble level of Japanese street food is something dry, light, and older than it looks. Nanbu senbei, especially in the Hachinohe area of Aomori and northern Iwate, grew out of necessity rather than luxury. Cold, wet Yamasei winds repeatedly damaged rice harvests, so local communities turned to hardier grains and built a flour-based food culture around wheat. The crackers were baked in iron molds from simple dough of flour, water, and salt, creating a snack that was crisp, portable, and durable. Some are plain, some carry sesame or peanuts, and some are tough enough to survive simmering in soup. What sounds simple is really a record of climate, scarcity, and adaptation. Mitarashi Dango. The next level becomes softer, chewier, and more ceremonial. Dango are rice dumplings usually served 3 to 5 to a skewer, and one of their best-known forms is Mitarashi Dango, lacquered in a glossy sweet soy glaze. A travel account from Japan Experience traces dango's spread in Japan to around the 10th century, when they were sold by street vendors near temples and along the Tokaido Road. In Kyoto, the name Mitarashi is linked to Shimogamo Shrine, where the bubbles of a sacred pond are said to have inspired both the sweet and its shape. The result is a snack that feels both ancient and immediate. Elastic, smoky, salty, and sweet at once. Imagawayaki. Before fish-shaped cakes and viral custard fillings, there was Imagawayaki, a thick, round griddled cake with a warm center, usually red bean paste. Its name is believed to come from a shop near Imagawa Bridge in Kanda during the Edo period, between 1603 and 1868. What makes the sweet especially interesting is how regional Japan becomes visible through a single snack. Nippon.com notes that while Imagawayaki is common in the Kanto region, more than 70% of people in Hokkaido call it oyaki. The shell is heavier than a pancake and softer than a biscuit, designed to hold heat and filling. On winter festival streets, it works almost like an edible hand warmer. Taiyaki. Then the same idea becomes theatrical. Taiyaki is essentially Imagawayaki reshaped into a sea bream, a fish long associated in Japan with celebration and good fortune. Shungate notes that taiyaki likely developed from Imagawayaki, which was already eaten in the Edo period, and that the founder of Naniwaya Sohonten, Seijiro Kanbei, is widely regarded as its creator in the Meiji era. That change in shape mattered. A simple cake turned into an object with character, symbolism, and immediate thumbnail appeal. Most are filled with sweet azuki bean paste, though custard, chocolate, and even savory versions now exist. The outer shell is thin and browned, while the center stays soft and almost molten. Yakitori. Street food becomes more savory once smoke enters the frame. Yakitori is, at its core, grilled skewers, but the simplicity hides a remarkable amount of regional identity. MAFF's Regional Cuisine Guide shows that even yakitori does not always mean chicken. In Higashima-Tsuyama, the signature version uses pork kashira, the meat from the temple to the cheek, grilled over charcoal with leeks and finished with a distinctive miso sauce. Nippon.com also notes that yatai stalls remain central to Japanese street food culture, especially at festivals and in cities like Fukuoka. What defines yakitori is not only ingredient, but method, fire, fat, caramelization, and timing. Properly cooked, it lands somewhere between juicy and charred, salty and fragrant. Yakisoba. At this level, the street becomes louder and more industrial. Yakisoba is one of the foods most closely tied to the sound of a steel griddle and the smell of sauce hitting heat. Japan's National Tourism Organization describes it as wheat noodles, stir-fried with meat and vegetables, then seasoned with a tangy brown sauce similar to Worcestershire. Nippon.com notes that yakisoba is one of the standard foods sold at yatai stalls during festivals across Japan. Its name can mislead outsiders because the noodles are usually wheat-based rather than buckwheat soba. That mismatch is part of the dish's personality. Direct, practical, and popular. The taste is salty-sweet, slightly acidic, and deeply nostalgic, especially when topped with pickled ginger and aonori. Oden. Then the energy slows down. Oden is less about flash than patience. A pot of radish, egg, konjac, fish cakes, and other ingredients quietly absorbing broth over time. In street food culture, it often appears in colder months, when steam rising from the pot becomes part of the attraction. MAFF's Himeji Oden page shows how even a familiar dish can split into local identities. In Himeji, both thick and lighter broths count as Himeji Oden if they are eaten with ginger soy sauce, and the local branding of the dish dates to 2006. More than 100 restaurants in the city were offering it by 2021. The texture is the story here. Daikon almost collapsing, fish cake elastic, broth gentle but persistent. Okonomiyaki. With okonomiyaki, Japanese street food starts to feel architectural. In Hiroshima-style, MAFF describes a dish built in layers. Thin batter, heaps of cabbage, pork, yakisoba, a thin fried egg, then sweet sauce and aonori. That structure tells a post-war story. The same source notes that Hiroshima Okonomiyaki evolved from a pre-war snack called isen yoshoku and expanded rapidly after World War II, helped by the availability of steel plate griddles in a city with many steel factories. By 1955, shops were adding soba noodles and pork more regularly, pushing the dish toward its modern form. Hiroshima also ranked first in Japan for okonomiyaki shops per 100,000 people in the 2014 economic census. It is chewy, crisp-edged, saucy, and intensely filling. Takoyaki. If one food captures the kinetic drama of Japanese street cooking, it is takoyaki. Osaka's official tourism guide describes it as classic fast food sold at street corners, with roots in earlier snacks such as choboyaki and radio-yaki from the Taisho and Showa periods. Modern stalls spread widely in the city in the 1950s when octopus was abundant in Osaka Bay. The batter moved from water to dashi, the filling gained octopus, and after the war, the topping style of sauce, mayonnaise, green laver, and bonito became standard. The real spectacle is mechanical. Each half-liquid ball is turned again and again with picks until the surface sets. Good takoyaki is crisp outside and almost molten within. Kakigori. The final level is not hotter, but colder, larger, and more visually extravagant. Kakigori began as aristocratic luxury long before it became festival dessert. MAFF's Nara page traces an ice tradition there back to 710, when ice was presented to the Heijo Palace, and it also cites Seishonagon's Pillow Book, whose 42nd section describes shaved ice in a new metal bowl sweetened with amazura. What was once rare court refreshment is now a democratic spectacle sold in shops and summer events, often piled high enough to resemble sculpture. In Nara today, strawberry versions are especially popular, and modern creations lean into photogenic scale. The texture is the marvel, snow-like ice that vanishes instantly, leaving only syrup, chill, and memory.